Chapter 7: Movies and the Impact of Images. Technology at the movies. Here's a quote from famed movie critic Roger Ebert. Watching Avatar, I felt sort of the same as when I saw Star Wars in 1977. That was another movie I walked into with uncertain expectations. Avatar is not simply a sensational entertainment, although it is that. It's a technical breakthrough. The development of film. Major milestones along the way included Edward Muybridge, who was an English photographer living in the United States, who was able to take a series of photographs and project them onto a wall to show movement. So this was the first moving pictures. He did this as early as 1880 and was credited with projecting the first movie, or moving pictures. Not so much a movie yet. Eastman developed the first roll film, which was improved by Goodwin, who used celluloid. The kinetograph, kinetoscope, and vitascope were developed under Edison, and the Lumiere brothers invented the cinematograph. There's a great timeline starting on page 234 in your text that gives all the details on these major milestones and more. The introduction of narrative. So while Muybridge put moving pictures onto a wall, there was no narrative. Narrative films tell stories. Early narrative filmmakers expanded on this moving pictures concept and added narrative. George Méliès created some of the first narrative films, including The Vanishing Lady, Cinderella, and A Trip to the Moon. Edwin S. Porter produced The Life of an American Fireman and The Great Train Robbery. And these were early narrative films and filmmakers. The arrival of Nickelodeons. Nickelodeons were an early form of movie theater. The name combines the admission price with the Greek word for theater. They were often converted storefronts with piano players adding live music. I live in a town where we still have an 80-year-old theater with a mighty Wurlitzer organ. And, of course, organ or piano music often was a welcome break from the silence of silent films. The Nickelodeons transcended language barriers because, of course, with silent films, you didn't need to know the language, and with so many immigrants in the country, this was a great form of entertainment for them. They peaked by 1910, so that was their heyday, the heyday of Nickelodeons. The rise of the Hollywood studio system. Filmmaking quickly became a powerful industry, and one of the first to try to control the filmmaking industry was Thomas Edison, who developed the Trust in 1908. And this was a cartel of major U.S. and French movie producers who pooled patents in an attempt to completely control and monopolize film production and distribution. They cut an exclusive deal with Eastman Kodak for the provision of film. There were many independent film producers, however, who found loopholes and moved to Hollywood to escape the trust. One of the reasons to move out to Southern California was the mild climate, cheap labor, and just overall ease of making films in Southern California. One of the early filmmakers, Adolf Zukor, attempted to figure out ways to bypass the trust. Zukor went on to have a very lucrative career and eventually run Paramount Pictures. And William Fox, who founded the Fox Film Corporation, which later became 20th Century Fox, filed a suit which led to the breakup of the trust. Entrepreneurs like Zukor developed other tactics for controlling the film industry. These tactics included integration of all three levels of the movie business. So by controlling production, to distribution to exhibition, and controlling all three levels of the movie industry. He was able to turn, he and some other key players, were able to turn the film industry to an oligopoly, which of course is a state of limited competition. Production. Actors were originally anonymous and not focused upon as a big part of the movie industry, but the industry eventually understood the value of creating stars such as Mary Pickford. She was known as America's sweetheart and helped elevate the financial status of actors. She was the first woman ever to make $1 million in 1 year. And back in the early 1900s, of course, this was no small feat. She was famous for telling Zukor that she really couldn't afford to work for only $10,000 a week. That's a lot of money now, let alone in 1915 or whatever it was. I believe it was 1915. She left Zukor to form United Artists, and she took a lot of famous people with her, such as Douglas Fairbanks, Charlie Chaplin, and D.W. Griffith. No woman since has been as powerful a player in the movie industry. So that's pretty remarkable for early 1900s. The studio system controlled creative talent in the industry. They didn't control Mary Pickford, though. Distribution, film exchange system. In exchange for providing short films, movie companies received a percentage of ticket gate receipts. Block booking distribution was when exhibitors had to rent marginal films in order to get films with big stars. So it was kind of a trade-off. Marketing of American films in Europe. This was a new opportunity to make additional dollars with existing films that had been made in America. Exhibition. Controlling exhibition. Edison's trust required theaters to purchase licenses or be locked out. Zukor bought up theaters and later built movie palaces. So these were still two major players in the industry. The Big Five, which were major movie producers who also owned theaters, included Paramount, MGM, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and RKO. And the Little Three, which did not own theaters, were Columbia, Universal, and United Artists. Together, these 8 companies formed a powerful oligopoly. So again, a limited competition environment, which made it increasingly difficult for independent companies to make, distribute, and exhibit commercial films. Hollywood narrative in the silent era. So major players in this era were D.W. Griffith, the single most important director in Hollywood's early days. He directed The Birth of a Nation, which was the first feature-length film and the first blockbuster. Silent era films included Napoleon, Ben-Hur, and The Ten Commandments. The introduction of sound. Early attempts at talkies failed, but The Jazz Singer in 1927 and The Singing Fool in 1928 were the first successful talkies. Movie-tone newsreels premiered sound film 5 months before The Jazz Singer. First film footage with sound was Lindbergh's Takeoff and Return. The development of Hollywood style. Hollywood narratives had 2 basic components, story and discourse. Hollywood genres, grouping by genre, achieves 2 goals, product standardization and product differentiation. Popular movie genres include action-adventure, mystery, suspense, fantasy, science fiction, musical, western, comedy, drama, romance, horror, gangster, and film noir. Some of these have endured to today's time. Westerns, not so much. Gangster films, not in their original form, that's for sure. Hollywood authors are those considered to have a particular cinematic style including Dennis Hopper with Easy Rider and George Lucas with American Graffiti. Some classic directors include Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Brian De Palma. Recognition has traditionally been rare for women and minorities in major filmmaking roles. And of course, this was exemplified recently with the controversy over the Oscars and lack of representation and certain black actors boycotting. There are films outside the Hollywood system, including global cinema. Other countries have a rich history of producing successful films, although it is hard for them to compete with independent American films. And there's documentaries. Early forms of documentary include interest films, newsreels, and travelogues, and cinema verite, or truth film. Independent films, or indies, are a popular genre of films outside the Hollywood system. They're made on a shoestring budget and shown in small venues and film festivals. Independent film festivals are important for discovering new talent. The Hollywood 10. An early Hollywood scandal was the Hollywood 10 hearings, where investigations of alleged subversive and communist ties of 9 screenwriters and 1 producer who were interrogated and refused to identify communist sympathizers and were charged with contempt and imprisoned. They were blacklisted by major studios upon their release. The Paramount decision. The Paramount decision was when the Supreme Court forced the studios to gradually divest themselves of their theaters. It was meant to increase competition, but never really changed the oligopoly structure of the Hollywood film industry. It created opportunities for exhibition, such as in art houses and drive-in movie theaters. Moving to the suburbs. The transformation in the 1950s from a wartime economy and a surge in consumer production had a significant impact on moviegoing. Money was spent more on consumer products instead of movie tickets. People married younger, so fewer couples were dating. And television rose to popularity in the late 1950s as most homes by that point had a TV. Television changes Hollywood. TV became the primary family entertainment by the mid-1950s. The movie industry responded by exploring more serious subject matters that covered larger social problems. This was a way to differentiate their product from TV. New technologies in movies also came about: Cinerama, CinemaScope, VistaVision, 3D, which we can't do at home, and Panavision. Hollywood adapts yet again now to home entertainment. The introduction of cable and video cassettes and VCRs in the 1970s changed movie exhibition. There was now a video market in the form of VHS tapes, and it was a financial bonanza for the movie industry. Traditional video rental market is now declining. The future of video rental is in internet distribution and streaming on cable boxes and on devices such as Blu-ray players, DVD players, game systems. We've covered this in earlier chapters as well, but certainly video rental is no longer in the form of VHS or DVDs. Production, distribution, and exhibition today of films. Movie studios have 6 major sources of income: box office receipts, DVD sales, rentals, and downloads, pay-per-view, premium cable, foreign markets, distributing indie films, and licensing and product placement. Table 7.1, Top 10 All-Time Box Office Champions. Number 1 in domestic gross sales in millions of dollars is Avatar. You'll see some of the others on the list have been released more than once, and so that probably contributed to their sales dollars being high. 5 companies operate more than 50% of the theaters in the United States today. Development of megaplexes happened in the 1990s, and the addition of IMAX screens and digital projectors came about in the 2000s. The major studio players today, the big 6, are Warner Brothers, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Universal, Columbia Pictures, and Disney. These account for more than 90% of commercial film revenue. In the 1980s, we saw diversifying, heavy promotion, and synergy. Movies are marketed heavily these days for the past 30 years. And so you'll see, before a movie comes out, you'll see the big movie houses promoting them in every possible way with products. You'll see toys at McDonald's. You'll see toys in toy stores, T-shirts, hats, any type of product to promote the movie in advance and increase sales as well. Figure 7.2, also found in your text. Market share of U.S. film studios and distributors from 2013. And this shows the sales in millions of dollars of all the big players in the film industry. Convergence. Movies adjust to the digital turn. The movie industry has quickly embraced the internet distribution. Service companies include Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Google, Apple, Redbox, and Blockbuster. Movies are increasingly available on smartphones and tablets. 2012 was the first year that digital sales outpaced physical DVD sales for movies. The internet is now essential for marketing of films. Figure 7.3, online video streaming market share ranking from 2013. Clearly here, Netflix has the largest share, followed by Amazon, Hulu, and then Hulu Plus. Alternative voices. Digital video is cheaper and more accessible than standard film equipment. Camera work can be seen instantly without film processing. It's being adopted by major directors. The same format as DVDs and internet video, so films can be distributed online easily. This is allowing people who would not normally be able to afford to produce films and distribute them a voice and a share of the market. Popular movies and democracy. Movies function as consensus narratives that operate across different times and cultures. The term consensus narrative was coined by Bruce Sterling in his book Zeitgeist as an explanatory synonym for truth. So some questions to ponder as we finish out this chapter are, do U.S. films contribute to a global village in which people share a universal culture? Or do U.S. films stifle local culture and diversity? I think it depends on the film, but these are interesting questions to ponder. This concludes the Chapter 7 lecture. Please read the chapter in its entirety, and let's discuss these and other topics on the discussion boards.